Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this NTU guide for parents and carers to clearing. I'm joined by a couple of colleagues this time around. I'll introduce them to you in a second. But hopefully you're here because you'll be supporting a young person on their journey through clearing and A-level results day. So hopefully we'll be able to answer all the questions that you may have about the application process, about student finance, about accommodation, and anything else to do with results day or clearing that you've got. We've had a couple of questions in advance, so we're going to kick off with a couple of those. But if you do have any questions, please pop them in the chat, and we will, through the magic of technology, ask them of the panel here today. So my name's Amy Smith. I am Associate Director of Admissions here at NTU, and I'm joined by my colleagues, Vicky. So Vicky, you're from Finance, that's right, isn't it?
Yeah, Student Finance Advisor.
Thank you very much. And also my colleague, Jamie.
Thank you, Amy. I'm from Accommodation Services.
Great. So hopefully we've got good coverage for all of the questions that you may have. If there's anything really specific that comes up in the chat that we can't answer on this live session, we will follow up afterwards with an email to you to make sure that that query does get answered. So if we can kick off with the first question. What is clearing and who is it for? So I think this one's aimed at me. So clearing is essentially choice. So it's the post-qualification way of students finding a place at university. Now, there are more choices in clearing than ever before. So courses and universities, there are thousands available on A-level results day. In fact, they're even available now if your young person has already got their examination results, or if they took a gap year or whatever it might be. So they may be able to find a place through clearing now. But essentially, clearing is a way of finding a high quality place at university just after a student has received their results. Who is it for? Well, it's for anybody, essentially. So if your young person, should I say, has achieved better than they've expected, then they can use clearing to shop around and look at other opportunities that may be available. If they haven't met the conditions of their firm and insurance choice, then they will automatically be entered into clearing, and then they'll have access again to this wide range of other courses that may be available. If they've simply changed their mind, so they had decided on a course in the main Ucas cycle and then they wanted to change their mind, then clearing is the place to find that new course or new university. And then finally, it's for people who haven't even applied yet. So we do get a few thousand students every year who wait until A-level results day when they've got their results in their hand, and their clearing application is the first application that they submit via Ucas. There's no stigma attached to clearing. There's no mad scramble, as it were, that there has been in previous years. It is just a way to find a new course depending on your circumstances. Next question. So how do students apply through clearing? So the first thing to do is to contact the university that your young person is interested in. You'll see scrolling along the bottom of the screen, we've got the NTU clearing hotline, which is 0115 8486 000. And we've also got a clearing website, which is ntu.ac.uk/clearing. You can use that website to find out loads of different information about the clearing process and how to submit an application. We've got a parent and carers guide on there as well. So there's plenty of information on that website for you. But to apply through clearing, the first thing to do is contact the university, either via phone or in some cases, they have online application forms. We do have one at NTU. But most of our traffic comes through the phone line. So at 8 a.m. on A-level results day, when the embargo lifts and your young person has got their results, they then need to log on to Ucas to see the outcome of their firm and insurance choice. And then they can contact universities with their results in hand to inquire about different places through clearing. Once they've received offers from different universities, then they can log into Ucas again at 3 p.m. on A-level results day, and then they can refer themselves to their chosen university at that and course at that time. So it's very straightforward. They do have to make the phone call themselves, unfortunately, in some cases. But yes, they do have to make that phone call themselves so that we can really understand a little bit more about them and make sure that they're making the right choices for them. Next question then. What if I haven't applied for student finance yet? Is it too late? And I will pass over to Vicky for this one.
Thank you. Yeah, no, absolutely, it isn't too late. Key point really is to apply now, apply as soon as possible. So if you haven't applied yet and you're thinking, well, you might, not quite sure what's happening and you might change your course or your university, especially through clearing, don't let that delay making the application. So make that application now, and then once that's in place, you can always amend your application. So the application that you make sort of comes in two parts. One of it is sort of you provide your personal details, all the information about yourself. That should probably only take about 30 minutes to fill in. And then there's another part of the form that is where you provide the household income. So that might be, depending on your circumstances, your parents or your partner that might fill that in. So as we are sort of a bit late in the day in terms of those applications, what may happen is as there's about a sort of a 6 to 8 week processing time for student finance, to make sure that you still receive some funding as soon as possible, what often happens is you would be awarded the minimum amount of maintenance loan. So if you do get your notification letter through and it's less than you were expecting, it may be that you've been awarded that minimum amount while student finance take that little bit of extra time to process your household income form. At that point, when that's then been assessed, if you were due a higher amount, that would be backdated. So no, key point really is apply now.
That's great. Thank you, Vicky. And can students, if they do wait until A-level results day to get their clearing application in, or to in fact make their first ever application, will they still be able to apply for student finance then, or have they got to apply now in the hope that they will find a place on A-level results day?
No, absolutely. They can apply at a later point. So if if it's somebody who hasn't yet made their mind up about applying, if in any doubt, we'd always say try and apply now. But if for whatever reason you're not able to and you don't want to apply for a couple of weeks, you can still apply. You can technically apply up to 9 months after the start of your course. It's just that obviously the later you leave it, you aren't guaranteed that you know how much funding you're going to get. And that maintenance loan that you are probably going to be looking for to help support you will come in later, the later you apply.
Thank you so much. That's really good to know that students can apply that much later after their start date if they find themselves in a position that they need to apply for student finance later. That's really good information. All right, next question then. What accommodation do we currently have available, Jamie? And when is the best time to book it?
Thank you, Amy. That's a really good question, actually. So the accommodation that we have available at the moment, we've got accommodation available at all 3 of our campuses. So we've got 3 campuses. We've got the main one at the City campus, we've got the Clifton campus and the Brackenhurst campus. In the City campus at the moment, we've got the Maltings, Meridian Court, Norton Court and Simpsons. At the Clifton campus, we've got both halls, which are New Hall and Peveril, and we've still got availability at the Brackenhurst campuses. We will be accepting bookings. We accept bookings at the moment to students that have already gone through the Ucas process, and then we'll be closing bookings up until the morning of results day itself, whilst the Ucas Embargo period is on. And then at 8 a.m. on the morning of results day, we'll be reopening bookings for people to rebook on the day, essentially. And when's the best time to book? The simple answer is there is no best time to book. You can choose to book on results day. We would normally recommend booking sooner rather than later. But in terms of availability, there will be availability certainly on the morning of results day. It's worth noting. We would probably normally recommend having 3 to 5 preferences of accommodation, just in case your first one is full. we do have a range of accommodation in our portfolio. We've got about 5,500 rooms in NTU's portfolio. And then we've also got a further 1,000 rooms in the private sector as well. So we've really got a plethora of choice for our students to choose from.
Thanks, Jamie. That's really good to know that the choice available in terms of courses and universities also applies to choice of accommodation available. Just before we move on to the next question, we have mentioned a couple of times now the Ucas embargo. So just in case anybody is unaware of what we're talking about when we do talk about the embargo. So as you may already know, Ucas transfer results to universities and colleges in advance of A-level results day so that we can all make our decisions on which students have got a place with which university and on which course. As a result of that, we have to run a period called the Ucas Embargo, which starts at 2 p.m. on Friday, the 12th of August, and finishes at 8 a.m. on Thursday, the 18th of August, which is obviously A-level results day. Now, during that period, you won't hear anything about the outcome of your application or anything associated with being a student. So accommodation being a great example. You won't hear anything from us during that period while we focus on processing those results. So it's just to make you aware that that is something that does happen. And if you don't hear anything from us during that period, not to panic. We are just making our decisions so that on A-level results day, when UCAS opens, as many students as possible have got the outcomes of their firm and insurance choice. Okay, let's go to the next question. Another one for Vicky. So what do I need to do with finance if my university or course has changed?
Okay, so yeah, this is a really key point actually. If your university or course changes, you need to make sure you're updating student finance with that information. So you should be able to do that really easily online via your student finance account. So hopefully we will be adding some useful links into the chat. One of those is a gov.uk clearing webpage, which has a really good kind of step-by-step live video as to where you go in your account to find the right information to update it. Essentially, your tuition fee and maintenance loan payments are a link to the university. So if you've got the incorrect university in there, the information won't match up when you attend, and it will cause delays in your payments being made. So any changes, really important that you go onto your online account and make sure you update it. The changes won't necessarily happen sort of immediately, so it might take a few weeks for that information to be processed. So again, keep an eye on your student finance account, keep checking to see if there's any other information that they're asking for.
That's great. Thank you so much. And what sort of information does a student need in order to make that change? Do they need the UCAS course code, or is the course title enough, or what do they need to provide?
If they've got the course title, then hopefully putting that information in should sort of bring down a drop down of lists. If you've got obviously course codes or anything else, that's great. It might just make it a little bit more straightforward. If you've got any problems finding that, you should be able to ring student finance and double check with them. I know obviously timescales sometimes to get hold of them at this time of year can be tricky. So, you know, if you really are struggling, you can also ring us and see if we can find that information for you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Okay, we've had a question come in from Jerry, so thank you for that. Jamie, how do students get access to halls where students who may have a place already booked but change their mind then don't get their results? So what's the best way for a student without accommodation to get access to that and to book?
Absolutely. So when it comes to accommodation, what we would normally ask is that you have NTU down as firm choice. So irrespective as to whether it is a conditional offer or an unconditional offer, providing you've got NTU down as firm choice on UCAS, be it for UCAS Extra, insurance choice or otherwise, providing that we are firm choice at that time, you can book accommodation. There's a really useful link which normally gets sent out once your offer has become firm. That gets sent out by the admissions team, and then that'll have the link on to book accommodation. Or more simply, you can go to the NTU website, ntu.ac.uk, in order to book. In terms of actually booking accommodation itself, what we would normally ask is for you to put down a £200 damage deposit and set up your payment plan if your offer is unconditional. Now, in terms of the cancellation period for the contract, it is 21 days before the start of the license period. So, in most cases, the start of the license period is going to be around about the middle of September. So, in most cases, it's going to be the 16th of September. So, in other words, 21 days before that time would be the 26th of August, where you could be able to get your deposit back and be released from contract.
Thank you very much. Next question is one for me. So is there a good time to make a clearing call? So as I already mentioned previously, if your young person has got their results already, then they can call our clearing hotline now and discuss what options are available to them. On A-level results day, our hotline opens at 8 a.m. And it will close at 7 p.m. Now, as soon as you've got your results and you've checked UCAS to make sure what the outcomes of your firm and insurance choice are, then you can make your clearing call. Obviously, some courses will fill up throughout the day, but the earlier you can make your call, the better. But don't think that just because you've waited a little bit of time that there's going to be no places left available for you. So just to reinforce, that hotline number is 0115 848 6000. Have that to hand on A-level results day. Make a note of it now, even if you don't feel that you need it. Make a note of it now so that you've got it to hand. And if you do want to make that call, then all that information is there, ready and waiting for you. Okay, another question here. So one for Vicky. I don't currently have a student bank account. Do I need one?
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Okay, so you don't have to have a specific student bank account. Obviously, to make sure that you're getting your maintenance loan payments, you will need to have a bank account that those payments can be made into. It doesn't specifically have to be a student bank account. However, they're definitely worth having a look into to see if it's something that would be beneficial for you. It might be worth having a look at Martin Lewis's Money Saving Expert website. That's got some really good information about student bank accounts, kind of the benefits potentially to them and just sort of what to look out for. They also have a bit of a breakdown about sort of top accounts. A key thing that a lot of students do use them for is the overdraft facility. So as a student in a student bank account, you are eligible for an interest-free overdraft. How much that overdraft is depends on the year of study that you're in and also the bank that you've gone with. So do have a look at those differences that might be on different bank accounts. You may also get sort of a freebie. So some of them offer sort of £100 sort of cash incentive to open the account. Others you may get sort of a free rail card or something like that. So potentially there are benefits to opening a student bank account, but if that's not right for you and you're happy with the account you've got at the moment, then that is your choice.
Thanks, Vicky. There are some really great perks available with some student bank accounts, aren't there? I've heard about discounted rail cards as well as the cash incentives and things that you mentioned. So it is worth shopping around and using a site like Martin Lewis to see what the best deal available is. Now, Jamie, when students are making their accommodation deposit, do they need a student bank account for that, or do they need a different kind of bank account? How does that work?
Absolutely, that's a really good question. So when it comes to NTU accommodation specifically, students actually don't need a guarantor. It's a very common question that we get.
Okay.
So in other words, you don't need a guarantor. There are services available within the private sector. Let's say, for example, you're going one of our partnership private providers, for example, or you decide to pursue accommodation elsewhere. There are some really good tools out there where you can actually look into guarantor services. So for your guarantor is a really good one, for example, where you can actually where they do offer these services. But when it comes to booking NTU accommodation, it's a really good incentive as to booking through NTU directly. Is actually you don't need the guarantor in the first place, and that can really help with sort of getting you over the line, so to speak.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So does that mean then that when a student books NTU accommodation, they have to book in an account in their name, or can they still book in, say, their parents' name or their carer's name or something else if that money is coming from elsewhere?
Absolutely, yeah. So the accommodation needs to be in the student's name, but
Okay.
where the money comes from, providing it is a UK registered bank account, we will accept these payment methods. But when it comes to setting the payment plan, for example, we're really flexible when it comes to setting payment plans. So we have a dedicated finance team that are on support. If you do need an alternative payment plan, they're really flexible. Most students will tend to pay by installments, which marry up with the student loan entitlements. So one payment in October time, one payment in January, one payment in April. But again, we are super flexible with payment plans. That's definitely something worth considering as well.
That's great. Thank you very much. And now we've got a question from Judy. Thank you very much. Is it possible to change booked accommodation when other rooms become available after results day? And Judy has been very, very diligent and already paid the deposit for Glass House accommodation.
Yeah, very on the ball, Judy.
Yeah.
So with the Glass House is one of our affiliate providers that we work with. It's worth double checking the cancellation period of the provider that you're with. So in most cases, as a kind of rule of thumb, let's say, for example, you were to be rejected by Nottingham Trent University um, for sort of grade reasons, for example, you'd be released by default. For most people, that's a rule as a rule of thumb that would apply to. Um, I think in terms of the Glass House, if you have paid your deposit, again, just if you're ever unsure, make sure to have a look at the cancellation policy for the Glass House. I believe from memory with the Glass House, it's in most cases, once you've signed for the terms and conditions, it's normally 7 to 14 days, depending on the time of year. So I think it's 14 days from the moment you sign at the moment. But then actually, when it comes to results day, that period will go down to 7 days. So it is worth just double checking the small print. It tends to be fairly ubiquitous with the NTU halls residents, but it's just worth double checking with the private providers how it works with them. Hope that helps.
That's great. Thank you. And could Judy contact our accommodation team to have that conversation? And then you put her in touch with the Glass House team, or does she need to go to them directly?
Either would be perfectly fine. Given that the Glasshouse is one of our affiliate providers, we're more than happy to answer any questions. You can get in contact with the accommodation team directly on accommodation@ntu.ac.uk, or you can give us a call on 0115 848 2894.
Thank you very much. Nice, easy email address to remember there. Accommodation@ntu.ac.uk. Double C, double M, which I always seem to get wrong. But thank you very much. And the next question. What happens after a student has applied through clearing? So I will take the first part of this one, but feel free to jump in after me, colleagues. So when a student has applied through clearing and they've received their offer from us, you'll get an email that says this offer is subject to, and give the grades that you've given over the telephone. Then when UCAS opens at 3 p.m., that's when you can refer yourself to NTU. And that referral then is our process of confirming your place. So you log on to UCAS, you enter N91, which is our institution code, and then the 4-digit UCAS course code, and that will refer your application to NTU. What we will then do is check the grades that you've said over the phone, match the grades that you've received, and then we will confirm your place. Now, that's obviously not the end of the process. That is just confirming your place. There are lots of other things that will happen after that. So you'll start getting emails from us about our welcome activities. You'll start getting emails from your school, so the school that you're coming to join. And then there's also accommodation to sort out if you've not done that already. So, Jamie, what does somebody need to do when they've got an offer of a clearing place at NTU?
Absolutely. So once your offer becomes firm on UCAS, you'll normally get an email from the admissions team with a link on to book accommodation. The system's called self-service reference. It'll be all over the Nottingham Trent University website. It'll be very easy to book accommodation. It's a really easy process. So all you need to do is log in with your NTU ID number that you'll get given from our admissions team. Normally this will start in either N0 or N1. once you've logged into the booking system, it works a bit like if you were to book a flight or a cinema ticket. So you'd normally see floor plans of the accommodation that's available at the time. It'll normally have the accommodation in green, that's available, and then the accommodation that's already gone is grayed out. So it'll guide, the system will recognize you as a student, it'll guide you to the appropriate accommodation options.
And is that the same process for clearing? So the students can see what rooms are available, what aren't, and then specifically request a certain room or certain building?
Yeah, absolutely. So, with in terms of clearing itself, there's going to be a form on the website where people can actually fill in their preferences of accommodation, and then we'll aim to get back to the student with the offer. It's slightly different if you're booking the private sector, but all the instructions will be on the website in due course.
All right, that's wonderful. Thank you very much. And clearly, if anybody's in need of home decor inspiration for when they move into their accommodation, Vicky's clock is getting a lot of attention in the comments. So thank you very much for that. It's a really nice background that you've got going on there, Vicky. I've obviously blurred mine because there's too much mess in the background, unfortunately. So moving on to the next question. If a student wants to change their course, but they already have a place at NTU, do they need to decline and then go through clearing? The simple answer to this is no, please don't do that. So if a student has already been confirmed on a place at NTU, so if they're unconditional, firmly accepted, then they need to request a transfer to an alternative course rather than reapplying through clearing, because it just means that they don't have to release themselves from their firm choice, then re-refer themselves through Ucas. We can just do a transfer in-house. So we do have an inquiry form on the website. So that'll be on ntu.ac.uk/clearing. You can do lots of things via that form. So a transfer is just one of them. You fill in a few personal details, then you say what course you want to transfer to, and we will process that for you in the admissions team. Now, if the course is full, obviously we won't be able to facilitate that transfer, but we will contact you to let you know if that is the case. Similarly, if a course requires an interview or a portfolio, then we will have to request that from you before we can transfer you to a different program. It's also worth noting that you will have to meet the entry criteria for the course that you're wanting to transfer to. So if, for example, you've been made an alternative offer for a foundation year because you only meet the criteria for a foundation year, you wouldn't then be able to transfer onto the bachelor degree because you don't meet the grade requirements. But again, if you submit that transfer request, then we'll be able to respond with the other options that are available for you. As I mentioned, that online inquiry form is not just for transfers. So you can also submit deferral requests on there. So if you want to defer entry to 2023 because you want to take a gap year or you want to have a job for a year or whatever it might be, then that is an option through that online form. And you can also submit any evidence of qualifications or anything that we've asked for as part of the offer process. You can do that online through that form. You don't have to mail it in or anything like that. It's all available for you to do online, and that's the quickest way to do so. If your offer is still conditional when you get your results on A-level results day, then that probably means that we're waiting for something from you. So it's worth checking your emails and seeing if you've got an email from us asking for a transcript or an alternative qualification or whatever it might be, and then you can submit it through that online form. Next question. Another one from Jerry. So thank you very much. How quickly does whole accommodation open up? Looking for a place on campus for city, but it's all booked up at the moment. Is there a process such as a waiting list or potluck if and when existing bookings do get cancelled? Jamie, that's over to you.
Thank you, Amy. Jerry, thank you for the question. I think I sort of see this as a two-part question. There's a sort of pre-results day and then the post-results day. So for the pre-results day, we do still have city centre availability. We do still have some availability at IQ in the private sector, for example, and a couple of the other private sector halls. And it does change on a daily basis as well. So, definitely give us a call tomorrow if you're interested in booking sort of before clearing. if it's actually on results day itself, what you need to do is you need to go to the NTU website, ntu.ac.uk, and complete the form for accommodation. You'll be able to put down your preferences of accommodation, your price range, and so on. So using those parameters, actually, we will match you up with best case offers. And then again, if you've got any particular requirements, so let's say that there are requirements for a disability access room, for example, if a student has particular mobility needs, we do take that in consideration as well. So we do have rooms in our portfolio that can kind of meet those criteria. We will then get back to you within the time frame. I believe we're looking at around about 5 working days in terms of the time frame, but again, that will be confirmed on the day. And then we'll get back to you with your accommodation offer. So again, the process is going to be fairly consistent in terms of NTU accommodation and private accommodation. All of our private accommodation is in the city centre as well, very close to the city campus, only within about a 5-minute walk. So that's certainly kind of, from I hope sort of answer that from kind of both perspectives. Some of the private halls will take direct bookings as well if you're interested within that as well.
Thanks, Jamie. And at this stage, all an applicant needs to have done is firmly accepted their offer with NTU. It can be conditional, it can be unconditional. That doesn't matter if they want to book accommodation now.
Absolutely, yeah. If a student's put us down as firm choice on Ucas, they can book. The room will be held for 48 hours in this instance. At the moment on Ucas on results day itself, that will go down to 24 hours. So just keep an eye on your emails. It's really important to keep an eye on your emails in the first instance. So we say, for example, don't put down an academic email address because chances are the school that you may have come from might have closed it, for example. So just keep an eye on your emails. We'll send that offer out. Then if you have any questions, you can give us a call on results day itself. So just if in case you've got any questions about accommodation, give us a call 0115 848 2894.
Thank you very much. That email address mistake is a really easy mistake to make when you're used to using that school email address all the time. If anybody does want to get in touch to amend their personal details on their application in advance of A-level results day, then if you go to ntu.ac.uk/askNTU, you can fill in that inquiry form and include a new email address or telephone number or whatever it is that you want to update, and we'll update that in the admissions team for you. Okay, so I think this is one for Vicky, but we can all chip into this. So I've never lived away from home before, and I'm not sure about managing my money. Can you help? I mean, can you help me?
Yeah, I think we all need a bit of help. I think, it's a really good question. It's a massive thing to suddenly be, getting all of this money coming into your account, but also all of this money going out, and learning how to budget and manage your money. It isn't easy. Everyone struggles with elements of how to budget. I would say a good starting point is to look on our web pages. So hopefully there should be some links to these coming up in the chat. We have lots of really useful information about managing your money and budgeting. A good starting point is budget workshops that we run. So we run a variety of workshops in relation to managing your money throughout the academic year. But we have one coming up on the 24th of August. I think it's at 5 o'clock, and it's about being money ready for NTU. So it's just about thinking about budgeting and how you can start preparing for university. So that's a really good starting point. Look on our webpage, you can book onto the event through that. Also, start thinking about budgeting now. So again, on our webpage, on that same link, there is information about how to budget. So a budgeting worksheet is on there, which kind of just sets out some of the key incomes that you're likely to have and the key outgoings, such as, sort of groceries, bills, your rent, course costs that you may have. And so there's lots of sort of prompts to get you thinking about what money you've got coming in and what money you've got going out. So if you start that now and start having a think about all of those things, that will just start getting everything sort of into your mind and starting to think about what you're spending your money on, how much money you've got coming in, And it will just sort of help you have a picture of whether you've got a shortfall, might you need to look for part-time work, for example, things like that. So there's lots of things to look at and lots of things to think about. There's lots of really useful sort of apps you can download now to help with budgeting. And the student financial support team can also offer kind of appointments and one-to-one chats about kind of budgeting, setting up spreadsheets. Key thing that we would say really is start having a look at it now. Again, on our website, there's some useful information about living costs and sort of average costs that students face here at NTU. So that gives you a bit of a starting point as to how much you maybe will spend on things like groceries. But make sure you think, every student, every person is different. So have a think about how much you're likely to spend. And, don't worry too much if you get things wrong along the way. Just keep trying, keep track of everything, and hopefully you'll find the way that works for you to help you budget your money.
That's some great advice. Thank you so much, Vicky. I know my colleagues put a couple of links in the chat, so you can pass those on to your young person to have a look through. If you also ask them to visit our YouTube channel, so the NTU YouTube channel, we have a couple of videos on there from our current students who go through a day in the life of a current student on a budget. They also have some really good tips for managing your money when you're at university. And a couple of those students have also actually worked for us as student ambassadors. So that's something else that you can join up to once you start at NTU. We do have a student ambassador scheme that's run via Unitemps. And more information on that will be provided when your young person enrolls. Jamie, have you got any tips for budgeting or managing your money when you come to NTU?
Absolutely. I think the one thing to stress is NTU want to make it as easy as possible in terms of actually managing your budget. There's some really good tools that Vicky spoke about. I think one thing to stress is that actually the price of the accommodation, as you see it on the NTU website, that is bills included. It just makes it as easy as possible for students to sort of not have to worry about, how is there going to be any hidden costs? Is what are my bills going to be? The simple answer is it's all kind of it is all enveloped within that cost. So the cost you see on the website is everything included. So that includes your gas, electricity, water, Wi-Fi, maintenance, and everything in between. The only other cost will be the £200 damage deposit, which is refundable at the other end of the license. Again, another good tool as well is within the accommodation services department, we also have our student accommodation support officers. So these are actually members of staff that can help out with things like funding, for example. So again, these guys that work quite closely with our finance team, we're here to help. We've got the tools in place so that if there are any concerns with funding in the first instance, we've got so much support in place for students, and Vicky's touched upon that. So we understand it can be a daunting time, but we want to make sure there's as much support as possible for our students.
That's amazing. Again, having that dedicated support there to talk through any financial concerns or queries that you've got with an experienced advisor. That's really, really helpful. NTU as a whole as well. So obviously we are aware that cost of living is ever increasing, particularly at the moment. And we've done a couple of things recently to support our students with these increased costs of living. So things like our on-campus catering outlets have frozen their prices for 2022-23. Same with our sports memberships. We've also got some increased print shop credit, some freezing prices in our society memberships as well. And also car parking at Clifton campus has also been frozen for 2022-23. So we are doing as much as we possibly can to support with that budgeting. We've also got a hardship fund available for any students who find themselves in financial difficulty throughout the academic year that they can access by request. So there's plenty of support there to not only manage your money, but also to help you with that when you do come to university. Okay, Judy. So on results day, what is the timetable for things to happen? Does the uni confirm the place early on in the day? Again, the quick answer to this is yes. So the results embargo lifts at 8 a.m. on A-level results day, and Ucas opens at 8:15. So at 8:15, your young person will be able to log on to Ucas and see the outcomes of their firm and insurance choices. We will send them an email, we will send them a text message around about 8:15, just so that they've got that as well in case there are any problems with logging into Ucas Track. But yes, first thing in the morning, we will be confirming our university places. Now, what we won't be able to do is confirm results. So if, for example, your young person's school or college is not giving out results until, say, 9 a.m., we won't be able to confirm what results the student has received. We will only be able to confirm the outcome of their application. So if they have been made an unconditional offer, don't necessarily assume that the grades that they were predicted are the grades that they've received. They'll still need to either go into their school or college or check their emails, or however the school has decided to deliver those results, so that they can see not only the outcomes of their university applications, but also their qualification results as well. Okay, so what will my first week of living in NTU accommodation look like? You mentioned around the 16th of September, Jamie. So, yeah, what's the first week of NTU accommodation like?
Absolutely. So first week is, of course, Freshers Week. That starts officially from the Friday the 16th. That is officially the first day. It's a common misconception. People think it's the Monday. It actually starts on the Friday. So there's loads of activities in place of the Students' Union that they put on. So everything from just, anything from sort of Planet Bounce to anything from like wine tasting. There's so many different things. There's anything. There's so many different things that the Students' Union put on. It's fantastic. In terms of living in halls, you've got student reps that are at the halls, the student representatives that are there to help you move in, and they're really useful. Sometimes when you've got to go up a few flights of stairs, it's just nice to have an extra pair of hands to help you with your luggage. So definitely utilize those on your first day. Alongside your activities, the halls will also put on their own activities outside the Students' Union. There's lots of things that go on. But yeah, so certainly contact the Students' Union in the first instance in terms of the event side of things. But the halls will put on their own specific tasks and events. So things such as yoga sessions, for example, within your halls. From a sports side of things, there's going to be intramural sports where you can actually try different things for the first time. There's so many different things that go on. I think that's an entire session in itself. I think there's so many different things.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jamie. I think it's safe to say that there are loads of activities going on both in your halls and then at the university, societies that you can join, all of those kinds of things. Just one quick question on moving. So does everybody in NTU accommodation, are they able to move in on the same day, or do they have to move in staggered ways, or what happens with that?
Yep. So students will get emailed with the opportunity to book an arrival slot. Most students will tend to move in on the Friday, but again, you're not restricted to moving on one day. In fact, you can move in at any time of the day because all of our halls operate 24-hour receptions with the exception of College Drive. So essentially what that means is you can turn up any time of the day. So let's say you're an international student you've got a flight that comes into the UK early in the morning. It's just a really good way. If you could come at 2, 3 in the morning, there will be someone on the desk to let you in. Yeah, so it doesn't necessarily have to be the Friday. It can be the Saturday or the Sunday if that's easy when it comes to work commitments, things like that. You might want to come up when the traffic's quieter. But yeah, there's a lot of flexibility in terms that you don't have to arrive on the same day.
That's great. Thank you. And Vicky, first week at NTU, have you got anything that you want to add there?
Yeah, a couple of points really. Mainly in terms of your maintenance loan won't sort of come through automatically the second you appear at university. It will take a little bit of time after you've become fully enrolled, sort of hopefully just a couple of days to come through. So to make sure that you can obviously enjoy and participate in everything that's going on, do make sure that you bring a bit of money with you for the first sort of week. If you have made a late application as well, you may need to have a little bit more just to last you a couple of weeks until your application has been processed. And also it's worth thinking about the fact that there might be some kind of potential upfront costs in that first sort of week or two, such as sort of, you know, there may be sort of joining membership society costs. There are reduced bus passes if you buy a bus pass for sort of the full academic year. But there's normally sort of, you've got to do that within the first couple of weeks. You may want to join gyms, there might be gym memberships, things like that. So just try and think about the fact that if you can come with a little bit of extra money, it'll just mean you can sort of join in and relax sort of for those first few weeks. But also, please be careful how you spend your money in the first few weeks.
Really, really good point there, Vicky. Thank you. So I think we might have one more question. And I hope it's not how much does a widescreen TV cost at PC World? No, it's not. So what if my living situation changes? So Jamie, do you want to start with this one? So what if a student makes a decision that means that their circumstances change?
Absolutely. So we discussed earlier the cancellation period. It's really flexible at NTU. So 21 days before the start of the license. So essentially, if you were to book something now, for example, your living situation does change, absolutely, we can cancel your contract. No attaches there. If your living situation changes, a little bit difficult if you've already arrived in halls. The contract is for a 44-week license period, so absolutely make sure that you can commit to the contract length in that instance. We do have an appeals process in place, so if you do decide that you want to leave your halls halfway through the year, for example, we do have appeals processes in place where we do consider extenuating circumstances. We do offer help in terms of actually finding a replacement for the room as well. So we've got some really good measures that we have. We've got Facebook groups. We actually advertise the rooms on your behalf as well. With January intake students, that's a really good example. Where we have students that come in the January period. So if your living circumstances do change, in the first instance, just get in touch with us. We've got plenty of student accommodation advisors that are more than happy to help. We can kind of help you and guide you through the process. We've got our student accommodation support officers as well. So if the living circumstances did change, definitely just talk to one of the advisors on the team. We're more than happy to help.
That's fantastic. Thanks, Jamie. And what about from a finance perspective, Vicky? If something happens that means a student's circumstances change, particularly in their first term or first year?
Yeah, so as we mentioned earlier, if there is any change to your circumstances, keep student finance aware of something that's happened. So for example, if maybe you were planning on staying in halls, but then maybe when you've gone through clearing, you're now going to stay at home and commute and live at home with your parents, you'll need to make sure you update that information on student finance online account, obviously to make sure your address information is correct. But also, depending on whether you're living in halls or whether you're living at home, does have an impact on how much you would be entitled to in terms of your maintenance loan. So you're entitled to slightly less if you live at home. So yeah, it's really important to make sure that you just keep student finance updated of any of those changes.
Thank you so much. So that is the end of our questions. We hope that you've enjoyed this session on a parent and carer's guide to clearing. As we've mentioned a couple of times, you can visit our website, ntu.ac.uk/clearing. That's got our parent and carer guide on there. It's also loads of resources for your young person to have a look at. So finance resources, links to accommodation, details of the clearing process, everything that you could possibly want to know about clearing is available on that website. Our clearing hotline on A-level results day opens at 8 a.m. and the phone number, just once again, is 0115 848 6000. And our advisors will be there from 8 a.m. ready to take your calls. So thank you very much for attending this. It will be available on demand afterwards if there's anything that you want to review and look at again. And also there's a couple of comments in the chat that where the queries were very specific. So please just drop us a direct message and we'll be able to respond to those for you outside of this session. So thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your evening.